true crime podcast where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruel Tea Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
Normally I would chit-chat and complain about something, but I don't want to today.
She's apathetic. She don't give a fuck.
Apathetic and nihilistic. I don't care if everything blows up. Hope it does. Bye. All right, let's get on with it.
So it's forensic first.
That is what it is, yes.
And today's case is the first time a case was solved with DNA.
Ooh.
So something that obviously we talk a lot about in true crime. We always talk about DNA. But honestly, at least as far as like being in America, we don't really talk about the first case that DNA was used in. Like, you would think that would be like a very well-known case, but Americans don't really know it. I've never heard of it. Yeah, it is a UK case, so I'm assuming that people in England, people, that were geographically close to the location probably know a lot about it. But yeah, we over here don't really hear much about it. And here recently, as of just a few weeks ago, this case kind of resurfaced in the UK press. So I'm sure everybody that lives over there will kind of remember this case. But yeah, originally known as the footpath murderer, trigger warning for child sexual assault and child murder. It begins on November 23rd, 1983. With 15-year-old Linda Mann. She was walking home from her babysitting job, which was just right up the street from her house in a quaint little village called Norborough, Leicestershire. Leicestershire. Yes, it's a lot easier to say
Worcestershire
in my
sauce. I can't.
head. Yeah. In Narborough. Nothing really happened there other than families growing up. It was a very just small, tight-knit village. And, children playing. The houses are all neatly manicured in a row, pretty gardens, nice, friendly people. Linda was described by those who knew her as a mature and responsible and nurturing child, which is why she had a job babysitting. The parents in the area trusted her with their children because she cared, and you could tell. She was loving and kind and patient. She was able to teach younger children and help them with their homework, which, as I hate starting the sentence as a mother, but you know what I mean? Like, as a mom, like, that's really hard. Like, and that's my kid, and I trust, I love them and have been there since day one, but helping them with schoolwork is kind of frustrating, kind of hard.
It is what made me learn I can't teach.
Yeah.
I cannot teach. I'm just like, just do it. I don't know.
But she had that patience. She had really, really great patience and like kind of an eagerness to teach. So definitely just, admirable traits. She was funny and smart and wanted to become a fashion designer. By 15, she was already making her own clothing.
That's cute.
And had a really promising future ahead of her. But all of a sudden, she went missing. When she didn't come home after babysitting that night, her parents raised the alarm and gathered the neighbors, and everyone began searching the area. They searched all night until daybreak. Her body was found by a passerby that next morning, just off a footpath that she took as a shortcut just a few yards away from her home, known as the Black Pad. And it was called that because it was just the small patch of sidewalk that had some overgrown trees and like vines. It was like really pretty and shaded. It's an area that you would usually like walk your dog and stuff like that. Yeah. So she was sexually assaulted and strangled and discarded right there where she was attacked.
It's terrible.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. Evidence was gathered, but investigators weren't able to connect anyone to the crime, and the case was just left open. The villagers were frantic. They watched their children like hawks. The once open and friendly community grew suspicious of one another. They just knew they had a killer in their midst. It could be their teacher. It could be their coach. It could be their priest, the guy at the grocery register, the butcher, the baker, you know?
Yeah, the candlestick maker.
Exactly. It could literally just be anybody.
Oh, that's scary.
It's terrifying. And especially like targeting children, which it's one of those frustrating cases where they call these 15-year-old girls young women.
Nah.
No. Because that's what the media kept saying. He's targeting young women.
No, he's targeting children.
And that's your children.
Say teenagers at least. I hate when they say young women because it erases that this is also pedophilia.
Yes.
And I hate that shit. And let me tell you this, they only really do that with girls. They will call young men, they'll call them boys. Or teenagers, because like I'm doing research for John Wayne Gacy because I'll eventually be covering that, and they called them boys, not young men. They called them boys,
right? Because women were, used as property the second that they got a period. So, yeah,
gross.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where that part was kind of stomach churning about the whole thing. But yeah, everyone was. It was basically like because there was no particular suspect, everyone was suspect. You know what I mean? There was no particular person that could have done it. Therefore, anyone could have done it. And for 3 years, the town just kind of lived on edge. And as soon as everyone kind of, eased up, maybe this guy was just, a random person. They kind of, started to go about their daily business. 3 years later, on July 31st, 1986, another 15-year-old local girl went missing. Dawn Ashworth had just left her home in the village of Enderby, just close by. Her friend lived in Narborough, and it was just a few minutes walk up the road from her house. So, yeah, she used to go there all the time, and it wasn't a very big deal. But when she didn't show up home that night, another frantic search ensued. 2 days later, her partially nude body was found beaten and strangled to death. She had been sexually assaulted after. Yeah.
God.
She was left just off of another footpath in a patch of stinging nettle. This little shortcut was very locally used, just like this other footpath that, sorry, I've lost her name. Linda. Dawn. Yeah. Linda Mann was found on. It was called 10-Pound Lane, so it was just a very short lane. Police noticed immediately that these two cases had to have been linked. I mean, not only did these girls look very similar, were very similar of age, right off of a short footpath.
What's me dropping my phone, too? Okay.
These two killers had to have been linked. They had to have. And pretty early on in the investigation, they had noticed a boy on a red motorcycle watching the crime scene. And he looked suspicious. He really did. Witnesses had said that he was seen on a red motorbike at both scenes, shortly before and shortly after the murders. His motorbike was seen even propped up underneath the bridge, very close to Linda's crime scene, before the police had found her body. People later identified this strange and very suspicious youth as 17-year-old Richard Buckland. And yeah, they all said that those who knew him said that he was a very strange kid. He worked at a local hospital, and locals all thought that he was really creepy. He was noted as having a learning disability, but not diagnosed with anything in particular as far as when this case is concerned, at least at the time. When he was questioned at the scene, he appeared to have extensive knowledge about the crime that was committed. He told police that they were looking in the wrong area before they had seen the body.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
No. He was brought in for questioning and admitted to killing, but only to killing Dawn Ashworth, not Linda Mann, which threw the investigators off because, obviously these two crimes seem very similar. They just had to have been linked. Also, they did blood typing, so they knew that they were the same blood type and both secretors. So they just knew it had to have been linked.
Yeah, and you can use blood typing on semen.
Yes. Well,
case y'all didn't.
if they're secretors.
Yes, if they're secretors. If they're not, then you can't.
I know
obviously.
we've discussed this before, but
We
just
definitely
in case
have,
you haven't
yeah.
heard or don't remember, don't know, secretors are people who secrete, literally, blood gets into their saliva, their semen, any other type of
Yes.
bodily fluids.
I mean, it wouldn't
Not
be like
everybody does.
the thing is it's not going to be noticeable to the secretor or people around them.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to see them have bloody spit.
No,
for
it's
example.
just it's able to be found.
Yeah, blood cells are in the seminal fluid,
Yeah.
saliva, and sweat and urine. Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Yeah, and that's mainly how they were able to type people and solve crimes back then before
Yes.
DNA. That was, kind of the norm, I guess. But either way, he did admit to the murder, at least one of the murders, and they arrested him. But they had to prove that it was him. They couldn't just take his word for it. They did take a blood sample from him, and they tested it against the semen that they gathered from the two girls, and he did have the same blood type, and he was a secretor. So with normal testing of the time, he would have been found guilty. He said that he was guilty, but they had to be sure. Because being this blood type and a secretor was still about 10% of the local male population. So it couldn't necessarily, narrow him down completely. So luckily for them, at the University of Leicester, there was a geneticist named Alec Jeffries, like literally right there in town, who was working on DNA analysis. He was like the guy.
Oh, cool.
To head the discovery of DNA. He had like a whole team of people, but he was kind of, the forefront of it. What he called genetic fingerprinting, because, before they only had fingerprinting. So now it's kind of a way of describing how the genetic analysis DNA process.
Yeah, I've heard it called that before, and I really like it, actually.
At the beginning, that's what they called it because it made more sense to them back then, and it does. I mean, it makes sense, but people.
They called it in my last case cyber fingerprints.
I like that.
It's
I like
cute.
that.
Yeah,
it's. I mean, your fingerprint is a code.
Yeah.
So
a
yeah.
code being yeah.
That's interesting.
Science.
Yeah, I love it. It's delicious. So when they ran the blood samples through this brand new, high-tech DNA analysis, the two samples from the victims were a perfect match, but they did not match Richard Buckland.
I knew it wouldn't.
Isn't that
beautiful?
Isn't that beautiful that the first time that DNA is used in a crime case,
exonerates someone.
It exonerates someone who has mental illness that wasn't guilty, that otherwise would have been placed into prison while the actual killer was free. Like, I just find this really poetic and
so fascinating.
A beautiful way
yeah.
to utilize this. But yeah, he had spent 3 months in prison for a murder that he did not commit. And, the investigators on the case were like, yes, we got him. And then all of a sudden, no, we don't.
No, we don't.
And, yes, I think they were just as equally, excited that, they weren't going to find somebody that wasn't guilty, but at the same time, what are they supposed to do now?
Yeah.
So now
Back to square one.
They are just very diligent, and they launched the first ever DNA inquiry.
Oh, yes, where they ask for samples.
One by one, each male that was, of that age range, at that location, at that time, had to go in and submit blood samples. They were requested to. And, most men, of course, were like, oh, absolutely.
Let's go.
Yeah, I want to find this guy. Let's rule myself out. It was a process of elimination. So it really did, hit off. They had over 1,000 samples within the first month.
Wow.
They would end up testing 5,511 people during an 8-month span before finding their killer. And the only reason why he was able to be caught was through a tip.
Yeah, I knew that he wouldn't voluntarily submit his shit. No way.
No, he didn't. But someone called in they had heard a conversation at a local pub. a man had said that his creepy coworker, which I think there was like a group of coworkers talking. They're talking about like how creepy this guy was, and he was like, "Yeah, he made me pose as him to take this blood test for him."
Oh shit!
He said that he made him go and get a picture ID, like in the photo booth and everything. And how he like meticulously took the picture off of his passport, changed the passport pictures. Like, it's just like the Serpent series. If you guys have seen it, it's one of my favorites. But it's just like that. Like, he had to like use like the heat gun to get the adhesive off and did it all perfectly. Switched the ID cards and then had to drive him. The man drove him to the testing center, waited for him to be done, and then picked him up immediately. He was even sick. Like, he was, like, deathly ill. Like, he had a fever and didn't want to do it. But the man made him do it. The man's name was Colin Pitchfork.
That's a ridiculous fucking name.
Is it not? Like, is that not, like, the most, like, storybook?
It brings me back to this girl I knew, not in high school. It was, like, a summer school program, but she was a teacher's aide, and her name was Janet Turdcott.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it fucking was. Spelled
No, it
phonetically,
wasn't.
friends. Turdcot. Turdcott. I'm gonna tell you what, you can change your name, cis people. Pitchfork is better than Turdcott.
I mean,
and I had another friend whose whole family, their last name was Folds. Her name was Money.
no.
And her brother's name was Bill.
No.
Yes, it was.
No.
Money folds.
Money don't jiggle jingle.
It folds. I'll shut up.
Oh, I needed that because this guy sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, Colin Pitchfork. That is such a name, isn't it? Yeah, once the caller, the person who left the tip, once she heard the story and heard the name Colin Pitchfork, she was like, you let him? You took your blood test for him?
He's nasty.
Because his original story was that that he had taken a blood test for someone else, and so he'd already taken the blood test.
Oh, that's such a
And he
phony
paid
story.
this guy like £200 to do it, and was very like pushy about it. And the guy really, really did not want to do it. But he was like, it's for my kids. Like, for some reason, he thought that he couldn't test twice. They're not that advanced in this technology.
Right? They're just going to eliminate you. It would have been fine.
Yeah, you could have totally tested twice, but I don't think...
I don't understand how everybody on Earth didn't go, that's some bullshit, go take your own test.
Right. But I do think he was a bit of a bully.
I agree. And some people are easy to push around.
Well, it did take him quite a lot of nagging and a long time. It's not like he just snapped his fingers and said, go do it. I think it was like several weeks of poking and prodding. And I mean, the woman that called in, she didn't call in as soon as she heard. You know, it took a while of it kind of sitting with her.
People are so reluctant if they're not sure to call in for tips. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you know something or even suspect something, call it in.
If they're guilty, they're guilty, you know, like...
The worst that can happen is they get annoyed by police for a minute, but call it in. Call it in.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of understandable, and I mean, she was creeped out by him. A lot of the women in the area, was creeped out by him, but to the general public, he was a 27-year-old father of two. He worked in a bakery. He not only worked in the bakery, but he was the cake baker of the village. Like, if you needed a cake for your birthday, for your, like, wedding, your christening, like, you name it, he was the guy that baked you the cake. So who's going to say that, oh, the cake guy is the murderer? Like, I mean, I've played Clue. That's not usually what I would say. And he was questioned during the initial search. The police stopped by his house. His wife answered the door, which I think she was, she worked in public offices too. They came in and they talked to Colin, and Colin did not seem suspicious whatsoever. He had actually been working on a renovation in the couple's house. He came in, he had like, sawdust and work, obvious, like sweat and stuff, and he had a baby on his hip, and yeah, he looked like a family man.
Yeah.
No one
looked like a
hardworking husband and father. They had a conversation about his whereabouts on the evening, and he said that he had dropped his wife off at night classes, which she confirmed. He said that he spent the evening watching their baby, which she also confirmed. And with that solid alibi, they never considered him a suspect until this phone call. It never dawned on them. The man who tested for Colin, a man by the name of Kelly, was brought in for questioning, and he told them all about Colin Pitchfork, about how he made him go to the photo booth, how he put the ID together. He told them about how, Colin made him, basically drug him out of bed, snot nose and everything, dropped him off, waited, and, was very persistent the whole time. He never thought that Colin was capable of murder. He thought maybe he just made some dumb mistakes with friends. That's it. But when they released him and they picked up Colin had a totally different story to tell. First of all, they just point blank asked him. They were like, "Why Don Ashworth?" And he was like, "Opportunity." I was there. She was there. And that was it. What? Like, he didn't even fight it. He didn't flinch. He didn't try to cover it up. He didn't.
That's crazy.
Nothing. He was just like, I did it just cause. Little did anyone in his life know Colin Pitchfork was a sick and twisted man who had been a sexual predator for years. He would wait in dark areas of random public places and flash himself to unsuspecting passerbys. He had become addicted to this behavior and the rush and the thrill of it all for so long that he ended up finding himself unable to stop. He had indecent exposure charges dating back to his childhood and teen years. But they were from when he was growing up in a different village. So during this investigation, it was kind of outside of their parameter of search. So they didn't see these charges. They had no idea that he had this problem. He ended up willingly giving a detailed confession of the attacks, including that he had exposed himself to over 1,000 women.
Ew.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And that it's likely that he was exposing himself to these young girls, and the way they reacted made him attack them. To him, according to him. Because, in his confession, he says everything point blank, but he weaves the story in the light of...
He's trying to blame the victim, because of course he is. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what? No. But yeah, he even admitted that when he attacked Linda Mann, his son was in the car. He had actually been driving around trying to get the baby to go to sleep and just saw the opportunity, pulled over and attacked her in front of his infant son.
So disgusting.
So his alibi was right there.
That's foul.
Mm-hmm. The final DNA test confirmed that Colin Pitchfork was the killer. 100%.
Yeah.
Geneticist Alec Jeffries was knighted for his work in the development of DNA genetic fingerprinting.
I wish we had that over here.
I know. I do too.
I want to be a knight. I want you to call me sir, damn it. Sir Lillian.
Just thinking about it makes me blush. How cool.
Hold on. What would your knight? You'd be Sir Willow the what? Because you always have a thing after it.
The weeping?
The crying.
The crying. The sobbing. It's not
okay,
cute.
I'm Sir Lillian, help me out.
Lovely.
I'll fucking hit you with my car. Y'all help me. If you tell me I'm Sir Lillian the what? Message me, I want to know.
That could be... No.
Nope, just shut up.
Yep. So in an article, Alec Jeffries was talking about being knighted, and he said, quote, "Please don't call me Sir Alec. It sounds too much like a villain from a Victorian novel."
That's hot, though. We like that.
Sir Alec.
Ooh.
He also went on to say, "My wife, Sue, who is senior computer officer in the Department of Mathematics and Computer Science, is also astonished. She hardly expected to become Lady Jeffries." She's very excited.
Listen to these cute fucking nerds, man.
So precious.
It's cute.
It's really precious, and I'm really proud of them because you got to think, like, this guy, nobody believed in him, right?
No, of
this
course
is
not.
new science. Nobody believes in new science. People believe in,
the
confirmed
old science or else, yeah.
Right. So nobody really thought that this was going to work out. And when it did, it wasn't just, okay, you did one DNA test. No, it was, okay, do 5,512 more. And so
He just was like, okay.
Yeah, okay. And, these girls' lives were, they're
To get the justice.
yeah, their
And nobody else
justice
gets
is on
hurt.
their hands, basically.
He saved lives doing that shit.
Didn't
he did.
He did, and he continues to. And he teaches. He does a lot of stuff now. And
Dude, you can retire. You're probably old as balls.
I mean,
Sit
he was in
down,
a lot of
sir.
interviews about this case because, again, it is relevant now, right now. So, yeah, he's still talking about it, and still affecting the world in forensic research, because obviously we are building on that still today.
Yeah, you don't just stop. When you come up with a new science, you don't just
Right.
go, oh, well, done now. It never
Right.
ends, which is what I like about science.
Right. You kind of build off of it. It's knowledge. It's just information and knowledge.
It is the whole of humanity's knowledge from the beginning. And I think that is if you don't think that's cool,
And it
I don't know
really
what
is
to
just
do for
us
you.
Observing. We're just making observations and looking at things. It's
Yes.
what we've looked at and what we've seen, and that's
Yeah.
real cool.
It is real fucking cool.
So yeah, I guess the silver lining in this case is, obviously the development of research in DNA, and the transition from it being just something of science fiction to actually like implementing and solving.
And to now, and I hear this a lot on a lot of documentaries and books that I read, that now we have the CSI effect, where if you don't have DNA evidence in a case, the jury isn't likely to convict.
Right.
And that sucks because, DNA, while very vital and super important to forensics,
I think it needs to go hand in hand in a huge ass, daisy
with all the
chain
other
of
stuff.
all the other
stuff.
Yes, we
sometimes
need the physical evidence.
Well,
we need the
sometimes we
circumstantial
don't have
evidence.
that. All we have is circumstantial evidence, but that doesn't mean we don't have evidence.
Right. But just having DNA without circumstantial evidence
good enough.
doesn't complete the story.
We have to complete the story.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So Colin Pitchfork was given psychological evaluation and was reported as having a, quote, personality disorder of psychopathic type accompanied by serious psychosexual pathology. The report also warned that, quote, will obviously continue to be an extremely dangerous individual while the psychopathology
Psychopathology. Ooh, I can't say it neither.
Woo, that's fun syncopation. Yeah, girl. Well, while that continues. He did plead guilty and was sentenced to life with a minimum of 30 years in 1988. In 2009, it was reduced to 28 years. Now, something that I didn't realize about court in England, at least in the UK, as opposed to the United States, is that when they say like life sentence, they mean that person has to be watched by the government. Either like basically you have your lifelong parole, like you are under the watchful eye of the government for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Now your minimum sentence is, whatever. It can kind of ebb and flow depending on how you are able to readjust and react.
They don't usually make it past 30 years, I've noticed.
It's very strange to me because, I mean, these children would have grown up to be women with very long lives. We
They'd
never
be in their
know.
40s now.
Yeah,
Almost
they would have.
50s.
Yeah, they would be young right now, and
They'd had already raised their kids, maybe be waiting on grandkids.
so you're taking a lot more than just 30 years of their lives away.
Because you took away the potential for more lives and their families and
and
I
look
don't
at how
know.
bad their families have suffered.
And I just think he's too dangerous to be let out.
It
But
just-
you're going to
no,
disappoint me,
I just
aren't you?
really don't like this. So, yeah, Colin Pitchfork spent his days in prison studying, getting degrees, translating texts into Braille, and he did such a good job as a prisoner. In September of 2021, they let him go. He was given a new identity,
Yeah, they'd have to because everybody hate his guts.
David Thorpe.
What's better than fucking Pitchfork, isn't it?
Well, David Thorpe is like the most generic name
It
you could
is,
have.
in the UK especially. Yeah.
And he was just sent out into the fucking public.
With no warning?
They might have warned the people. I don't know for sure. But nope, they weren't required to
inform the media.
Inform his
because they gave him a new identity, so we wouldn't know who the fuck he was.
And he just looks like an average 60-year-old citizen, so even more.
No one's going to recognize him.
Unsuspecting.
Oh my
God. Exactly.
Girl.
Of course, they gave him, a parole officer or whatever the equivalent is.
That fucking matters.
They would, he would have, constant supervision. He had a long list of guidelines that he needed to follow. But of course, he couldn't keep up with them because he was recalled to prison within 2 months.
Get out.
Within 2 months. And the media really tried to poo-poo this off and say that, oh, well, we can't release, the list of guidelines, so it could be anything. He was approaching women in the street.
My God.
In 2 months. You can't even
maintain
for 2 months.
The minute he's out, I can't wait to kill
He's
women
like a
again.
Rabid dog. In June of this year, so just, a handful of weeks ago, in June of 2023, he was due to be released again.
Oh, hell no.
But so many people said the exact same thing.
Thank you, people.
People wrote in parts of their, ministry, parts of their government, local government, and citizens alike, people from the news. All sorts of people started writing in.
They're
and
like,
saying,
don't do that.
Yeah. Because you also have to remember, over 1,000 women he flashed himself to.
That's disgusting.
That's over 1,000 victims out there. Those are still victims, of course. I don't think that a lot of people recognize that. But their families are also victims too, because how scared would you be?
Oh, just terrified.
Exactly.
And disgusted and heartbroken.
Right. Yeah. And so, there was just a ton of people that were there's a lot of back and forth right now, and I'm just really trying hard to wrap my mind around it, because it's very clear that the public, the victims' families, everybody, the normal fucking people of society locally, do not want him there, clearly.
No.
But there's some old bats in their local government that are well, he's too old to reoffend. Oh, look at all the years he's spent doing Braille shit. Come on, he's too old. He's not gonna.
So
he's not 60.
I want to
look
fight
at
them.
our government. Look at our look.
Yeah,
look at
Paul Biden's still doing
look
stuff.
Look at all of the sexual offenders above 60. We have tons of them. Trust me, he can do it too. Come on.
Yeah, when my great grandfather was 89, months away from 90, tried to molest me.
Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. It just. This case proves two things, at least two major things to me. It proves that, if we push for science, we could actually find the truth, not give up, because it took a lot
Dogged
of pushing.
persistence.
Yes, a lot of pushing, a lot of persistence, especially not to give up on things that people would call pseudoscience.
Because they did call it that
at
first.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But also pushing for what's right, standing up against the government, to mold it to work for us instead of against us.
That's right, because we hired them bitches. We can fire them bitches. At least here.
right.
I don't know how y'all do it in the UK. It's confusing to me.
Right, it really is.
You got a queen and then she died. Now you got a king. He's got big ears and sausage fingers. I know you can't fire him, but I sure would try.
I mean, all of our officials have their faces melting off. And
yeah, it's fine. They're weird and I don't like them.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm really proud of the people of, especially those villages of Narborough and Enderby, just banding together and
they're like, we ain't taking this shit.
The news reports that a lot of people wrote in, and a lot of people stood up against this, and I want to see more of that. I want more of that, saying no and standing up and not feeling small for a fucking second, because that's how it feels a lot of times. We're too small to stand up against something that we believe in, especially when it comes to keeping our people safe.
For real.
Because there was also another sexual predator that was released right around this time and ended up reoffending again and getting put back in jail. So it seems like, especially in England, that there's kind of this lax issue with sexual offenders. Like, it's like, oh, well,
Because we don't want to talk about it because it's embarrassing.
well, because they're men in jail with other men, and they're, sexually predatory towards females or young girls, and so
or
since
just
they're
other children.
well, since those aren't the types that are in prison, they're not going to offend. But
Of
as soon
course
as
not.
they're in public, like, why don't people see this?
It's really
Does it-
simple. It's like
It shouldn't take being
outraged.
a victim.
It shouldn't take that everybody has to write in outraged. We should by now understand that we cannot rehabilitate these people because we have we've tried.
Right.
And I think that we're either doing it wrong or we need to start having some real frank conversations about pedophilia.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something right now because I love y'all out there, teabags. The frank conversations we need to have about pedophilia aren't movies made by pedophiles about pedophilia.
Right.
That Freedom whatever movie that's out.
I don't know anything, and I'm glad I don't.
Anyway,
glad
it's
I
a
don't.
movie that was made about a guy saving kids from pedophiles. And one of the funders, the producers of the film, was just arrested for, guess what?
God.
Gee, it's almost like the people making the most noise with the accusations are guilty of it themselves. Just saying, it's Q adjacent. Conspiracy theory shit, and I'm not saying human trafficking doesn't exist. Obviously, it does.
Right.
But it is more harmful for this vigilante justice shit. It is causing problems. It's not really saving kids because there's no system in place once we save the kids from the situation.
Right.
Then where do they go?
God, I wish I could help.
Me too, but
If
it
I
ain't
had-
helping that way.
If I had every dollar on the planet, I would help them kids, I swear.
Or if you had $1, you'd be interested in business time. Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one. Don't you laugh. Don't you laugh. Serious.
I was wondering how you were going to do it today.
I was just waiting for a good moment, and then you said dollar, and I was like, money?
God. But seriously, though, like, eventually, whenever this podcast does get more listeners.
Oh, we'll
and,
do something. We call it do something money.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually, you listeners out there
Will be the one to
funding
do it. Yes.
the abilities to make a change, to do something about something, eventually we'll get there. But for right now, we have to build it
For right
brick
now.
by brick from the foundation up.
All by ourselves with no help. And
Except for
we
you
taught
from
ourselves.
Patreon.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm saying we taught ourselves all this. And we didn't go to a class.
I learned from all my mistakes. You guys heard them in the beginning episodes.
That's correct. We didn't know what we were doing.
no shit.
Still not too sure, but trying my best.
But we're almost to season 3.
That's right.
We have a pretty good amount of patrons.
You can binge it now, that the pod.
Girl, if you were to get a Patreon, if you were to become at least a $5 patron today, you would have at least
About 200 more episodes to
additional
listen to.
episodes to
Yes.
listen to. If you're listening to this right now for the very
160 or
first time and you've never listened to any of our other episodes, if you became a patron today, you've had well over 500 episodes to listen to right now.
Yeah.
For
Totally.
$5.
And I will
That's not
say
bad.
our Patreon cases are some of our best. I just finished the Scott Peterson case, which isn't going over the murder, but the allegations his defense team made
Right.
on ABC special, or A&E special, excuse me.
Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I did a really good job on that one.
You did.
Yeah.
You did.
My next one, I'm going to be covering Mary Bell, 10 to 11-year-old serial killer.
Wow.
And I let the patrons vote on that. We let you guys vote, too, on next month's themes, what case you want to cover on Patreon. $5 and up gets to vote on all that stuff. So it's very exciting. It's very exciting. And I'm running a contest right now. If you become a patron this month, and that's the $5 and up tier, then I will enter you to win all kinds of art and soap and candles and goodies and jewelry from me and Maris. And I would say valued at well over $200. So... yes, you have until the end of August. I extended it. You know what else I extended, Willow?
The other one?
I did not extend the other one.
Oh, okay.
No, I extended my sale on tarot readings.
good.
Yes. So I want to tell you guys a really cute story really quick, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So on July 7th, 2000 and... 2013, me and Maris were just friends online, and we had just finished writing a book together. And to celebrate, we were over Skype on video chat. To celebrate, we were going to have some drinks. My broke ass couldn't even afford a 40 from like Quick Trip. And Maris only had like grape Kool-Aid and vodka. And so I didn't get drunk, but Maris did. And he got so excited about our book being done and overwhelmed by feelings. He looked into the camera and said, I just want to kiss your face. Aww. And then his eyes got like huge. He turned bright red because he hadn't even admitted he liked me more than a friend. And he just slowly sunk out of frame and went under his desk. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, what the fuck? And then after about 3 minutes, still on camera, you see him just crawl away. He didn't think I could see him, and I saw him crawling away. And then about a week or so after that, he did tell me that he had feelings for me, and he expected me to reject him. And I just said, oh my God, same, let's get married, I love you.
Yeah.
So on August 9th, 2013 is when I picked him up from the airport. And we would have gotten married then, but it wasn't legal yet. And so we consider that our anniversary. And so August 9th, tomorrow, is our anniversary. It will be today by the time you guys listen to it. And so for our anniversary, we really want to go... Stupid. This is what Maris wants. He desperately wants to see the Barbie movie.
Really?
Because he loves Margot Robbie.
Oh, that's really exciting. You have to take pictures in the Barbie thing.
I will.
Yes.
We don't own pink, but I'll wear pink eye makeup.
Yes.
And if you guys want to help us out, please buy a tarot reading, because I would like to take my beautiful, amazing, sweet, precious baby angel husband to the Barbie movie he really wants to see. And so we are doing star charts and a full 10-card spread for $45. You get an 8x10 beautiful illustration of a date that's really important to you, like a birthday or anniversary. Maris illustrates in kind of an old-timey way the position of the stars on your special day. Just message me and we'll set that up for you. He's, I think, got 1 or 2 slots open. So, yeah. Or if you just want to give me a tip so I can take my baby to the movies, I'd appreciate it. All my info will be in the comments. It's also my birthday soon. I'm going to be 44. That's frightening. So all that information will be in the comments as well. I had something else, but... Here it is. This is sad. That's why I didn't remember it. Producer Will yesterday went to the DMV to get their driver's license.
Right.
Huzzah! And then 15 minutes later got an fender bender. And so if you want to help poor Producer Will out, their girlfriend just got fired from their job.
No.
The date, like 2 days before this happened.
God.
And so they're down to just Will's income, and Will is working like double shifts and is exhausted. And y'all,
And still produces for no dollar.
let me tell you something right now. Well, I make their phone payment.
Yeah.
And I just sent them money, like as much as I could. So if you want to help them out, please remember that Producer Will, without them, we would not have Cruelty.
Yes.
And you probably heard a little message on this episode. I don't know, because Will said they were going to do it. That is my kiddo at the beginning of this episode.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Aww.
Will wanted to say something to all y'all. So, yeah, it's cute.
Precious.
Will's a very cute person. I wish you all could meet him or talk to him, because I don't know. Will's just a great guy in general. But hey, if all you can do to support this podcast is listen, I love you. Thank you. And I mean that as creepily as humanly possible. I want you to feel unsettled. That's a little too parasocial for me, Lillian.
Like you're whispering it in their ear.
I love you. Oh. Nobody likes that. Nobody. That's not ASMR. Do you want us to do ASMR?
Headphones on. I'm sorry.
What do you do to ASMR? You just glop your mouth into the microphone? I will never do that to y'all. Because ASMR makes me want to go on a killing spree. I hate it. I can't cope.
Divergent.
Yeah, I got misophonia. I can't handle sounds like that. I'm just like, ooh, stabby, stabby. Also, before I go, though, you know what doesn't cost any money, Willow?
What?
Hopping in our Discord and saying
That's
hello.
right, girl.
Please.
Break that fourth wall.
Don't be scared.
Yeah.
Look, I get
Interact
it.
with
It's parasocial relationships. People frown on them sometimes. I like them.
To a certain extent, yeah.
Oh, I don't want it to get actually weird. I wouldn't appreciate that. But I think we've got pretty healthy boundaries.
No,
in
I mean,
general.
since 2020 happened, it's been, all my friends are online in that tiny little thing in my hand. Like
friends in this economy?
I know, right? It's like, I don't know. All my friends are kind of sprayed across the globe.
Yeah.
From all over the place.
No, seriously,
and
come
I
hang
really
out.
appreciate that.
It's a really great community. You will make new friends who enjoy what you enjoy.
Yeah.
And also, we have a new shirt on our merch site, so go check it out. Brain is soup.
Oh, yay.
I made it.
Yay. Oh, you guys, if you buy it, send me a photo. I want to
Yes,
see.
we want to put it on our Instagrams,
Yes.
on the gram,
on the gram.
on the apps. Anyway,
Follow us.
Yes, do that. And if you have any questions or anything, just email me. My email's in the description. But I'm going to go now. I don't ever know how to end these gracefully.
Y'all are wonderful. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We
Goodbye.
appreciate you.
Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Willy Bee.